All right, I think we're live. Tells it tells me we're live. You guys let me know in the chat if you're hearing me all right, you're seeing everything okay. I'm just checking all my settings. That's kind of what I've been doing the last hour or two. I thought I had everything all lined up on the technical side, and um, come to find out I didn't. So right now I've got a mic set up for my voice, and then I'm also running stereo, the Walrus ACS1, just so I can play and maybe do a few things there. So again, you guys let me know in the chat if you're hearing me, you're seeing everything okay. If anybody's on right now. I know we had some people waiting earlier. There we go. We got some people hopping on. Awesome. Greetings from LA. Thanks for jumping in, guys. Yeah, I was trying to get my audio. I did a test a couple days ago, and it was not the worst, but it wasn't great. Just my talking wasn't as clear as I wanted it to be, and it was when I talked softer and louder, it was a lot of variance there. So I kind of set it up a little differently. I've got a mic set up now. I'm actually running it through a compressor here in my studio, an 1176, which seems like a little bit of overkill, but it works. It's what I got here. So it seems to be the test I did. It seemed like it was sounding a lot better. Greetings from Berlin. It sounds great. Awesome. Very cool. I'm going to get back up here a little bit. Hopefully I'm not killing you guys with noise. Oh. Yeah, so we're having a kind of a slower week here. Me and my wife and daughter are all home. We're just kind of chilling, been watching a lot of Christmas movies and running last minute Christmas errands. No official video this week or anything, and probably not one next week. We'll be out of town next week seeing some friends and family for the holidays, but Merry Christmas to all you guys, Happy Holidays, all that. This is a live stream kind of celebrating 10,000 subscribers. I actually hit that. I believe I hit it in November, but I was on the road for most of November, and then December just trying to get regular videos out, and as well as just kind of figuring out the live stream. I had to get some equipment to be able to do that. So I think I've got a decent setup here. I'm still working out the kinks and getting it kind of as smooth as I want to as far as the setup goes, but I think I've got a decent setup. So I think after the first of the year, I'm going to try to do this from time to time, maybe once a month. I'm not going to do it every week, at least initially. Just kind of, do it every now and then, see how you guys like it and all that. Also today, I'm going to take questions. So if you have any questions, definitely let me know in the live chat. I've got some questions from Instagram too that I'll pull up, and we can kind of talk through some of that. But yeah, anything you guys want to know, whether it's about the channel, about specific gear, about, the different gigs or touring stuff that I've been doing lately. I'm an open book, as they say. I'm up for whatever. So you guys ask me, and I'll answer it the best I can, or the best that I'm able to. I've also, like I mentioned before, right now I've got the ACS1 plugged up. That is plugged up through something that I just got recently from Pinstripe pedals. It's the DSO Plus. It's kind of like a DI. It works slightly differently than a DI, and it's actually made for stuff like the ACS1 or the Iridium. From my understanding, basically what happens is those pedals have a lot of output, and so what happens is the level gets dropped down, and then you have to bring it back up with your preamps. There's just kind of this level, not necessarily a conversion, but you're changing levels a lot when you use a normal DI. This uses a different type of transformer, and so initially when I plugged it up, there's a lot more level. Like it's plugged into the preamps on my Focusrite interface, and I'm barely have them on. There's just a lot more gain, and a lot more clarity and everything with that. So I haven't compared it strictly straight ahead to the DIs that I typically use, which are JDIs from Radial, but it sounds great so far. And again, the level, there's lots of level, plenty of level there and everything. So we've got Austin's got loads of questions. Somebody asked, is the HX Stomp really the ultimate bass rig? I mean, I think for something like bass or even acoustic, which I've talked about previously on the channel, it's a great like all-in-one solution. And especially for for things like that, like bass and acoustic, where you're not really using a ton of effects most of the time, but maybe sometimes you want some kind of special effect. The HX Stomp is great for that. And I've said it before, I think the HX Stomp is one of the best deals going as far as everything that you get in such a compact package. That's, I think there's 600 new or something like that. Amp modeling, most of the effects that you would typically use, and more that you might not ever use, or more than I'm not going to use. So it's a great deal, and it really does work amazingly for bass. I hope you can review the Ampero 2. I'm hesitating about it and the HX Stomp. I'm actually not familiar with that. I would have to look that up. I've said this before on my channel. If I can play amps, then I'm going to play real amps. And so at this point in time, with the ACS1, the HX Stomp, and the Iridium, I have all three of those. I feel like I've got my bases covered. Unless a company sends me something to check out, I'm probably not going to go buy another modeling, solution. The only one I would potentially be interested in trying and using would be the Axe Effects. I've heard that that's just the best, but it's also way more expensive than anything else too. So I've got this set up today, and I've got some pedals that just came in. If you caught kind of the live stream test a few days ago, I got a box from Empress. So I've got those here out on my desk. My desk is a complete wreck, but we'll plug some of those in here in a second. Right now I already have the Empress ecosystem plugged up, and then they sent me the compressor, the MK2 version of the Empress compressor, as well as the Zoya. Where is that thing? Oh, here it is. This thing is crazy and really cool and awesome. I haven't gotten into it too much because I feel like this is one of those pedals that can be super complicated or super easy, just to flip through presets. But it's really what you make it. And there's a whole community aspect where you can download presets online that people make. It's basically a modular, like kind of a modular synth setup in a pedal, and you put different effects on these squares and they all light up and you connect them. And but it's going to take me a minute to kind of wrap my head around this. When I first plugged it up, it started making sounds all by itself because it's kind of a synth in and of itself. So I was in over my head initially, and I need to do at least read the manual or something once so I can figure out how to even do anything on it. Austin said, very curious to hear the Empress compared to the Cali 76. Yeah, I haven't plugged the new version of that compressor in. I actually used the first version for several years. It was a bigger version, and I loved it. I loved that it had the metering on it, so you could tell actually how much gain reduction you were getting. There's LEDs that show, and and it's got tons of controls, which is great. You can really dial in your sound. I later moved to I think the Diamond compressor, just because it was much more simple. But having those controls are great. I think that with the new Empress, the MK2 version, one cool thing about it is that it has this, it has a sidechain feature that has, kind of an EQ thing going on with that. So essentially, if you're not familiar with a sidechain on a compressor, basically it's how you're basically using something else to affect the triggering of the compressor. So you hear it a lot in like dance music and stuff where they trigger bass and like the kick drum and that kind of thing, just to kind of glue them together and create certain special effects. But as it pertains to guitar, I think the idea here is that the sidechain is with kind of lower frequencies. So that means that maybe you have these low frequencies. Those aren't going to trigger the compression as much as other frequencies. Sometimes low frequencies can kind of create more pumping in a compressor and make it less transparent. So my guess is this thing is going to be super transparent and really great for that always on style compression. Again, you can see right here, this is where the lights are for the gain reduction. That's super cool. You can really tell how much you're actually compressing your signal. There's a mix knob, ratio, all that stuff. So I'm sure this thing is amazing. I haven't plugged it in yet though. All right, we got lots of questions here coming up. Light speed into the ODR1 or ODR1 into the light speed. Desmond Weston says, congrats on 10,000. Thank you so much. As far as the light speed ODR1 thing, I've talked about it. I think I talked about it in my light speed video, or I've talked about it at some point. But my approach with the light speed is typically that's one of my last gain stages, and I like most other pedals running into the light speed. The reason for that is that one thing that I really dig about the light speed is that it stays really punchy, and as you hit it with other drives or boost, it doesn't get real compressed. It doesn't just start squashing everything really bad, but you still maintain dynamics. It might get more saturated, but it doesn't necessarily get more compressed or squishy. The pedal that I used a lot before the light speed was the Morning Glory from JHS, which is a great overdrive as well. But that pedal, if you did the same thing with the Morning Glory, then it would start to compress a little more. It gets a little more saturated. You start to lose some of those dynamics. So that's one thing that I love about the light speed and why I tend to run overdrives into the light speed. For me, I also love doing that because it almost feels like it helps kind of glue everything together. Sometimes, if you have a certain overdrive and you turn it on, it can feel like it just changes your sound a lot. Kind of your overall EQ. But I find if I run everything into the light speed, I can still get my volume boost. I can still get those tonal changes and level changes, but it kind of brings it all together. Typically, I do run a clean boost right after. I run the RC booster right after the light speed to get just more level. And I just really like how the RC boost amps as well. All right, Blue Sky Ghost. Hey, Michael, greetings from Australia. Very cool, very cool. Can you maybe talk about how easy or otherwise it is to live with a Matchless C30 for recording at home and gigging? They are loud. Rhett's currently doing Instagram Live, but I'm here. Oh, thanks. I didn't know he was doing that. I know he typically does live streams on Tuesday. So I've had my Matchless for probably 15 years or so. I've talked about it. I talked about it the other day. Most of my recording here at home, I'm using the 2-Notes Captor. I have two of them. I have a 4-ohm and an 8-ohm, so I can run stereo amps if I want to. And so most of the time, it's rare that I actually turn my Matchless on here at home, like through the speaker, because it is super loud and it's just too much. I mean, you might even be able to hear the TV in the other room that my daughter's watching right now. But, it's a small house. We live in Decatur here in Atlanta, kind of the metro Atlanta area. And, we have neighbors and just kind of trying to be conscientious of those around me. I can't really crank up amps all that much. And so by using the 2-Notes, I can work a lot more often, and I don't have to be as choosy with that time. Live, you gotta watch your volume. I feel like more and more through the years, stage volumes are coming down, amps are living backstage, or turned around backwards and all that kind of stuff. People are going to in-ear monitors. all of that makes it a factor. It just depends on what kind of places you're playing in, really. I mean, a lot of times I won't bring that amp to a gig because I know it's going to be super low volume, and I'll maybe take this Tweed Deluxe that I built a little while back, or something that's just going to be a little more manageable volume wise. That being said, the Matchless does work really well at not super loud volumes. What's your current pedalboard signal chain? Thank you for introducing me to the Lightspeed. It's now on my pedalboard. So, you guys might have seen my, I guess the most recent pedal board video I did was a smaller board. And since then, I've actually gone back to a bigger board, and I picked up the RGAM Mastermind. It's the PBC 6X. And my board is completely different than it was in that video, which is not abnormal. I'm always changing my board and always doing something different with it. So right now I'm going into the, I'm looking at it down here on the floor. It's all plugged in. I can't really pick it up very easily, but, and it's just a wreck right now. I'm going into my volume pedal, which is the Layla or Leela. I'm not sure how you say it. I go into that, and then I go into the Mastermind, and then in the loops of that, I have the Cali 76. I've got the Wampler Bell, which some of you guys recommended after the brown protein video, because I really dug the ODR1 side of that pedal, and a lot of you guys recommended the Bell from Wampler, so I've got that on there. I've got currently I have a Maxon stereo chorus, the CS9 Pro, got the RC booster, I've got the PCE Effects Aluminum Falcon 3, which is just like a Klon style pedal. And then currently I actually have, this just came in the other day, the T-Drive from Vertex, which I've really been wanting to check out for a long time. And it sounds great. I've always hesitated about that pedal because it's only a volume and a gain knob. There's no tone knob. And so I'm always, hesitant on pedals like that because they, just whether they'll work, if the EQ will be right and work with everything. But I actually used it this past week for kind of a bigger rhythm sound, and it worked great. It's a little more open in the mid-range, which I dug. And then for even single note stuff, it felt cool. I haven't been able to spend a lot of time with it, but I really enjoyed that pedal kind of on initial thoughts. And then I've got the Eventide H9, which is controlled by MIDI from the RJM, as well as the Nemesis delay from Source Audio. That is a great sounding delay, but the only downside is the whole preset and MIDI thing with that, and the phone app is not great. But it does sound really good, and it does a lot of stuff. And then lastly, I have the Big Sky. And then depending on if I'm running amps or, the ACS1 or Iridium or whatever, I'll throw that down at the end. All right. When jamming at home, monitoring your rig, do you use headphones or through your DAW monitors? Typically, most of the time here at home, I am... I've got studio monitors up here. They're from Dyna Audio. And I typically just plug in to my interface and then come out of the studio monitors. I'm pretty fortunate in that I can get away with that. I don't have to use headphones. I did for a long time where I would throw on headphones and play my amps through the Two Notes captors or whatever. But lately, just to practice and stuff, I'll plug up, the ACS1 or the Iridium and just have it come through my studio monitors to run through stuff. So speaking of that, I'm going to plug into that. I've got it all set up here. Y'all let me know about this level on here too. Good afternoon from Brazil. So this is the parts caster that I got a little while back. Did a video on this. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. I was actually surprised how well that video did. Sometimes you just never know. Some videos do really well and some videos don't do so well. But this one did all right. So right now I'm plugged up through the Echo system and I'm still kind of figuring this pedal out, but it's on the dual parallel and I've got the lo-fi and delay and reverb thing going on here. Again, y'all let me know about the level on the guitar and the mic. The mic's probably going to pick the guitar up, but there's also direct guitar going on. Yeah, I haven't even really tweaked this sound very much, but it just like, I love when you plug in a pedal and it just sounds great and is a cool sound that you haven't even, tweaked or anything. And then I think on the ACS1, I'm on the Vox setting. Yeah, there's a lot of verb on that. But that's all coming from the Echo system, which is pretty cool. Especially with the Mastermind that I've been using. One thing that's been super cool about using that is using the MIDI to almost get more out of some of the pedals. Can hear my daughter running about. I'm getting more out of some of the pedals that I have just because I can go between presets super easily. It takes some work on the front end programming, presets and making presets and getting them all set up. But being able to jump between different presets and different combinations of presets and then even reorder things inside of the Mastermind, I feel like I'm able to get away with fewer pedals because I can get between everything so much more easily. Yeah, so right now, no Big Sky. That is all coming from the Echo system. I've got my board down here and on, but I'm not even running into it. I'm running straight into the Echo system. The Echo system is running straight into the ACS1. What is the last pedal in your chain before you go into your DAW? ACS1, yeah. I typically always run into whatever I'm using as an amp sim or amp or whatever. That's typically the last thing. Just like I would if I were using amps. Because most of the time, again, if I can, I'm going to use real amps. And that's how I would run them. So whether it's the ACS1 or the Iridium or whatever, that always comes last. The only exception to that was when I did have the HX Stomp on my board and I was using that, just because of routing and how everything was, I would run some of my amp sim stuff before my verb. And that was honestly more of a practical choice than it was a stylistic choice or a tone choice. It worked great. I think I prefer verbs going into the amp. They definitely sound more hi-fi when you run them last to me, but yeah, I mean, it sounds great either way. There is a difference for sure. I always think of if you're running delays and verbs after your amp sim, it's going to be more hi-fi. It's going to be, I don't know. There's just it sounds more like a studio thing. Whereas if you're running it into an amp, it's almost like I think of it as the amp is kind of filtering those sounds. You know, the EQ of the amp sim or the amp is cutting out certain frequencies, or it's EQing your delays and your verbs. So that's kind of how I think about those. How I think about those kinds of things. The differences between running on pre and post. Do you produce other artists mix? I don't do much mixing, but I do some production. I've got, if you haven't seen it on my website, I've got a little reel of stuff that I've produced on there. I don't produce a ton, usually maybe 1 or 2 projects a year. Just kind of juggling touring and playing live and producing stuff. I just finished up a song a couple weeks ago for an artist that should be out anytime now. It's a cover of a song called "What Are You Doing New Year's Eve," and it should be out really anytime now. That one was a lot of fun. We did horns on it, so we had a 5-piece horn section on it, and it's kind of like a jazzier kind of thing, but it turned out really, really nice. I like when a dirtier amp breaks up delay when it goes delay into the amp. Yeah, exactly. And that's like a very specific sound. And that's also one sound that I feel like really, for me at least, shows the differences between a real amp and a modeler. When you have delays and verbs, and you've got a lot of that going on into a real amp, there's the way they make the amp break up and react and do weird things. That only really happens with a real amp. Whereas I feel like when you do that with a modeler, the modeler is almost like too good, or it's not like overloading, and there's not this kind of inconsistency with the way the delays and the verbs are hitting the amp. If you have a lot of feedback on the delays and that kind of thing, the way amps handle that stuff, I feel like is a unique thing to actual amps, and I haven't found modelers really duplicate that super well. All right, it looks like we got about 15 people on. You guys, thanks for joining. Yeah, drop any questions you have in the chat. Gear, about tour, about playing live, about the channel. I'd love to hear from you guys too about what you'd like to see me talk about on the channel or cover in the new year. I'm, starting to think about the future of the channel. I've been doing it 2 years coming up this January. So it's been a blast. Thank you guys for being here and supporting the channel and watching and subscribing and telling your friends, all of that. I mean, it's really been cool to see it grow, and with COVID and kind of not playing live, it's been a great outlet for me. It's been really cool to be able to create music and get all the positive responses from you guys. So y'all, thank you for that. I also want to let you guys know everything on the website right now is on sale and will be until the end of the year. As that's IRs, HX Stomp presets, Kemper profiles, all that stuff is on sale, as well as my course, which is all about creating and layering guitar parts. That is, I think it's like 25% off. And that's kind of an overview of how I think about creating all of the demos and all of my parts, how I put different guitar parts together. It's just kind of I think of it as like a bird's eye view of of how I think about that stuff and different things to think about when you're combining guitar parts or trying to come up with different guitar parts. The one thing that I specifically did when I created that course was to make it accessible no matter what your technical ability was. So it's a lot of general concepts. It's a lot of big ideas on, ways to think about parts and putting parts together. I don't talk a lot about, certain chord shapes or certain scales or anything like that. It's really kind of this general idea approach of how to combine parts. If you can play chords and play single note lines and, or play picking style parts or whatever, like if you can do that kind of those types of basic parts, then all of it will definitely make sense to you. All right, we got some more questions. Let's see. Would you change your setup, verbs, delays into the amp if you were using an amp overdrive gain instead of pedals? Have you done this in the past? Love the channel, man. Oh, we just jumped up to 19 viewers. Awesome. All right. So this person from Austria just finished your course on layering guitar parts. Very useful content for my low skill home recording. Could you please elaborate on how to get good at guitar? Wow, that's a big topic. That's a big topic. One thing that I'm trying to do in the new year to get better is just learning songs and learning other guitar parts. I feel like, especially for where I'm at, I'm not always necessarily working on being able to play certain things or be more technical, even though those are things that I work on, but I'm more trying to learn and figure out different people's approach, like how people are coming up with parts. What are they thinking about? How do they come up with different things that are, inspiring or unique? And so for me, I'm always trying to learn, other people's parts and their approaches so that I have more to say with my own playing. All right, I want to go back to this one that I skipped. If I was using amp overdrive, would I change that? I think it would depend on how I was using that. I mean, I definitely, like in a live setting, I could see myself going to like using an effects loop on a dirty amp if I went that route. It's been a very long time since I've done anything like that, or used amps like that. But I think if I was using more gain in that manner, then I probably wouldn't be using as many effects, but I would definitely consider and maybe move towards putting verbs and delays in the loops. At least some of it. I like a delay in front of a dirty amp too. What are your camera settings when shooting for vlogs? Always looks great. I'm using, for vlog stuff, it's different than when I'm here in my home studio. I'm using auto white balance and then kind of standard stuff. I always shoot at 4K, but the auto white balance just keeps it easy for me, and then I'm adjusting my ISO as I go. I don't set it on auto ISO, even though I probably should experiment with that some, because that can be a little tricky, especially when you're moving in and out of bright and dark places. Merry Christmas. Sorry I'm late. Oh, no worries. So this guy who just said that, I can't remember his name, but Molar Up Amp Works. If you've seen some of my amp build videos with the Trinity stuff, he's been doing some stuff where he just built the Tri-Watt, which is the high watt clone that Trinity does. And so he's got some videos featuring that. If you're really into like the amp build videos, he has videos kind of doing that and covering that stuff. He goes way more in depth, way more technically in depth than I did, and is a lot more knowledgeable than I am on that. But it's still pretty cool if you're into that kind of thing. You still use your Helix, or are you primarily HX Stomp? when you're in that realm. Yeah, I'm typically using the HX Stomp, but honestly, lately I've been more and more using my amps. Big topic, but we tend to focus on gear and not music. Absolutely, and I can be guilty of that for sure. I mean, gear's fun, and um, especially when you've got new gear to try out or you're buying and selling stuff. I've focused probably on it way too much. Um, but I always try to talk about that in my videos at least somewhat, is focusing on making sure that the music or the gear that we're using and that we're getting is accomplishing a musical goal of sorts. I talked about that in my last video actually with the Cali 76. Like um I think I mentioned this the other day. That video hasn't done super well, but I was really happy with how that video came out. And one thing that I talked about in that video was just making sure that, we're realizing that these are tools, that the goal is to create music. For me, I'm creating music, but then I'm also playing music for artists and being hired to play. And so, focusing on gear is fun, and I really enjoy it. Obviously, I have a YouTube about gear and playing guitar, but um, you know, the goal is to create music, right? All right, so let's check out this ecosystem a little more. Actually, you know what? Before we do that, I'm gonna go over to Instagram and see what other questions we have over there. If you guys don't follow me on Instagram, go check it out. It's at Michael W. Westbrook. All right, let's see these questions we got. All right, how do you manage all your drives and effects and whatnot live without a looper switcher thing? Well, that's what I just talked about a second ago. I actually just moved to one of those. Um, but in some ways, it's more difficult because I'm still getting used to it. I'm still setting up presets. So there have definitely been times recently where I have not had the time to set stuff up beforehand and felt like I was fishing a little bit, and it made it a little tough. More so with like delay and reverb presets and everything. I really like how the Mastermind works. It has the ability to go in and switch on loops individually. So, and I have all those labeled. So on the fly, I can just go to that page and then turn all of my pedals on individually, just like I would with a normal, just like a true bypass looper, which is super cool and really helpful. What would you put on a flyboard? So far, I have the ACS1, R1, and D1. So my thoughts on flyboards are always, it just depends on what you're doing. Like whenever I am putting together a flyboard, it's for a specific purpose. Like I'm going to play a certain set of songs or with a certain artist, and so I need certain things. And so I just put what I need on the board. That makes sense for that gig. So that's kind of how I think about flyboards, and they're always going to be changing depending on what I'm doing. My basic setup though is going to be a volume pedal, a tuner, a almost always a compressor, the light speed, the clone, and a delay and reverb of some sort. I'll typically have maybe one other gain stage of some sort, whether that's a boost or maybe a higher gain stage. But, I'm bad in that I use a lot of gain stages. I like to control my volume and everything with pedals more so than with my volume pedal. I do that some as well, but I like the consistency of having all of my gain stages with pedals. Do you ever run compressor after overdrives? I typically don't, but I have been thinking about giving that a shot lately because with the RJM Mastermind, you can change the order of your effects, and so that makes it super easy to put that compressor last in the chain of my overdrives or put it wherever. So I have thought about doing that just to check it out because I've tried it in the past long, long ago, and I didn't love it. But that makes it really easy to throw at the end of the chain, or after some overdrives, but maybe before a boost. Just gives me a lot of variables, which I'm really looking forward to checking out. I haven't done it yet, but it should be fun. I'm going to answer this one last question and then maybe check out some more of the ecosystem. From Empress, do you approach tone differently for live scenarios versus online? I would say so. I mean, I think that in the studio, well, live, definitely lean towards like darker tones. And it even depends on what the live situation is. Like in like a bar gig, I typically lean towards darker tones just because it's going to be loud, and brighter sounds, very loud, come across as harsh and hurt people's ears. Whereas if it's louder, but darker, it's almost like you can get away with more volume because it's not hurting people's ears and is piercing. Whereas when I'm recording here in my home studio, I'm not using as much, low end, as much low mid, because I'm usually stacking parts. There's more going on. And so I want to make sure that everywhere has its own sonic space. All right, there's a question I definitely want to cover in a minute from Muller Ampworks. But yeah, let's hear this. Let's hear this ecosystem again. So one cool thing I noticed with this earlier when I turned it on. So here's with it off, but I love the stereo spread on this thing when you turn it on. So that's no delay reverb, and then you can turn it on. Just got like, it just gets real nice and wide and really good sounding. I'll make sure you guys are hearing that like it is. Yeah, it should be. Sorry, I'm working on all my kinks here, guys. Oh, that's why I'm not hearing it there. Yeah, so let's see what else we got here. So here's just the tape. Yeah, that sounds good. All right, good to know. Thank you, Matthew. I can fix that. Well, I say I can. Hold on. Oh, yeah. Sorry, I'm trying to remember how I have all this stuff routed. I had to do some weird audio routing with this stuff because basically, for you guys who know, I'm using the software OBS, and you can only have two left-right. You can only have like a left-right in there, so I had to do some kind of internal routing. But let me see if this gets better. Y'all let me know if that's better. If you should not be hearing the like mic picking up the guitar now. But y'all let me know. Awesome. Yeah, this delay does so much. Are you guys hearing me now? I basically was turning that mic on and off. But yeah, I was just flipping through the different tape versions because as you turn the mode knob, whatever type of delay you're on, the light changes colors and you're getting different types of different types of tape. Or I just that last one was the analog setting, different types of that, which is cool because it sounds like one was kind of grittier, one was a little more hi-fi, different things like this. But yeah, this thing sounds incredible. It definitely feels nice and wide, especially in stereo, and just warm and very inspiring. I dig it. So I want to go back up to this one question: how do you stay motivated to do videos and keep coming up with new ideas, especially when things get busy? These kind of questions really interest me because this is the kind of stuff I'm always thinking about with the channel. I'm trying to think about what kind of videos are going to be interesting for people. Also, what's different. There's a lot of guitar pedal demo people out there. I'm not trying to do that. My goal really is to just give you guys a kind of real world perspective on what it's like to be a working musician. Somebody that's not like a quote unquote rock star, but somebody who makes a living playing music. And the all kinds of gigs, from everything from the bigger tours where you're on a bus and you're playing large places to, playing places where not many people show up and your van breaks down, like all of that. So that's kind of has always been my goal for it, for the channel, just kind of giving you guys that perspective as well as, my perspective on gear and different things that I'm using. Just, a working musician's perspective on what works, what's worth it, what makes sense, with that stuff in mind. And it seems like you guys have enjoyed it. And I'd love to hear more feedback or more thoughts on what other kinds of content you guys want to see in the upcoming year. I'm always thinking about that. I guess to go back to the question, how do I stay motivated? I think when I have ideas that I think are cool or fun, that's really motivating. You guys watching the videos and commenting on the videos, that's really motivating for me. It's cool to see people connecting with stuff and leaving comments and asking questions and being able to help people. All of that is really motivating for me. When things get busy, it can be hard to get videos out, and that's especially the end of the year here. The last couple months, I haven't been putting out as many videos for that exact reason. When I was on the road with Crowder in November, I didn't do any videos when I was out. I didn't really have the time or the means to be able to, edit on the road and also kind of fulfill my role out there. So, I'm interested to see what this next year looks like. At least the first part of the year is a little slower. And so, I'm hoping to really dig in at the top of the year to get a lot of videos going, and I've got a lot of stuff that's come in recently, that companies have been sending me to check out. So I think the challenge for me on that stuff is just figuring out how to approach videos, so they're not just a gear demo. Kind of my goal has always been to do videos that are informative, whether or not you care about the specific piece of gear or not. Like, I want to do a video on this Empress compressor. You guys might not be interested in that specific compressor, but if I can find a way to do a video on it that, maybe teaches you about something else or about compressors in general, then that seems like a win to me. Like just trying to come up with an angle that makes it interesting whether you're, whether you want that pedal or not. And then also, I'm not really here to sell you guys stuff. I'm just here to tell you what works and what I think about it, and maybe you can learn something from that or whatever. But so I play church gigs. What is a good dirt pedal that's not too harsh? Well, my number one dirt pedal recommendation always is the Lightspeed from Greer. I mean, I think that is like one of the best overdrives ever. Almost comically so. That's like always going to be my answer. The Greer Lightspeed is an amazing overdrive pedal. So yeah, and I think next year, at least at the beginning of the year, I want to do some kind of video on this right here, the Zoya. Oh, there we go. Yeah, Empress compressor right here. Ecosystem, which we've been hearing. Also, I got these guys from Red Panda. They were super cool and sent me the raster and the particle, which I was super stoked to check out. Particle 2. This thing is really cool. I actually might plug that in as we kind of wrap up. I think we're going to wrap up here in the next few minutes. Oh, sorry guys. Did y'all? Oh no. I was about to say, I turned the ACS1 down all the way. That shouldn't have popped you guys. But I think the mic is just picking me up, plugging this stuff in. So sorry guys. All right, I'm gonna mute this for a second. All right, we should be back. I just muted it so I could unplug stuff and not pop you guys. Y'all didn't have to hear all that nonsense. All right. How do you create drum tracks for your intro jams? Also, I bought your IR pack and I really enjoy it. Greetings from Poland. Nice. He said just bought the IR pack. Just once again, everything on the website right now is on sale until the end of the year. MichaelWWestbrook.com. That's IRs, HX Stomp presets, camper profiles, as well as my course on creating and layering guitar parts. All that's on sale till the end of the year. So check it out if you haven't. Do you have any opinions on the 1981 DRV? I do not, because I haven't played it yet. About to go down a rabbit hole with the Panda pedals. I know. I got those in right before I got the Empress Zoya, and so now I feel like I've got like a lot of pedals that are. I'm just going to be making weird noises in here. My wife is going to be wondering what is happening. But I want to do a video potentially with the Red Panda stuff on kind of using those weirder odd sounds in normal type settings or in normal songs. So I've got to learn those pedals a little more and figure out what they can do and how to go about that. But I love weird sounds like that, like the granular delay stuff. I love all that stuff, but most of the demos and most of the things I hear using those types of sounds are not stuff that I'm doing or really relate to different things that I'm doing all the time. So, but I think that they are usable in different types of settings that you don't hear a lot in demos and all that kind of stuff. So, I want to kind of explore that idea in a video. Again, I'm still kind of learning the pedals and I'm going to have to figure that out, how to approach that. But that's kind of my thought with that. So right now I'm just running the Red Panda. I'm just running it mono. It is stereo, which is cool that they've done with the V2s, but you have to run like a TRS cable, which I don't really have handy. Maybe some content on building a small group. I don't quite understand what you mean by that. Like a band or something? I don't know. Oh, there was one question I don't think I answered. Oh yeah, how do you create drum tracks for your intro jams? So this is a question that I get a lot. I get from time to time, and I typically use Easy Drummer. It just makes it. They sound great, and it makes it really easy to drop in drums. Now, the thing with that is you're kind of locked into the different patterns and the different things that they have. Sometimes I'll go in and I'll edit those, but for me and the demos that I make for my videos, like efficiency is the name of the game. Like there are probably ways that I could make those better or different. And that if I was in a band, and I was writing these things, I would probably do a little different. And the drum parts would be different or whatever. But a lot of the times I'm just trying to find drum parts that work, or maybe I'll find a drum pattern that I like and then I try to write something to that drum pattern. Sometimes it works kind of in the other direction where it's like I'll end up with a drum pattern that maybe I would have never thought of before, just because, I dropped it in and I was like, oh, that's kind of sounds cool. Like, but yeah, I use Easy Drummer. It works great for doing the demo stuff and they sound good. So I've been really happy with that. I'd be curious to see how you get on with the microcosm. Man, I've been wanting one of those for the longest time. I just haven't been able to drop the money to get one. I just recently, I feel like the channel has gotten big enough where I can, like pursue companies to see about sending me stuff to check out. But that always kind of feels weird too. Thanks for answering my question, Michael. Would love to see some content in the future where you maybe talk about bringing some of your pedal steel approach, tone, volume, solos, licks for guitar. All right. Yeah, I would love to incorporate pedal steel more into the channel. It's only really been on a few videos, but let's hear this Red Panda some more. So yeah, I'm messing with the Red Panda Particle 2 right now. It's one of those pedals. I've only plugged it in a few times, and I'm still learning it. Still trying to get the hang of what everything does. That's pretty cool. I mean, that's something like that too is like super usable. It's kind of an octave tremolo thing. Yeah, there are a lot of sounds in this particle. I mean, anything from that, like a detuned chorus thing, to the kind of pitch shifting tremolo, to like the weird granular things. I'm looking forward to checking that out. Someone who's pedal steel curious but afraid to get into those waters, what would you suggest as a good kicking off point? Man, honestly, a super easy way to kind of start getting into that, if you haven't already, is like to buy a lap steel. I've got one back there on the piano. I featured it in a video recently, one of the demos I was playing lap steel, but that's, that's one way to kind of start down that way, just because you're starting this motion, and working with tune, playing in tune and that kind of thing, and thinking in that mindset, and then adding pedals. The downside about pedal steel is a decent starter pedal steel you're going to spend a good chunk of money on, probably around $1,000 or even more to get something that's, worth starting to learn on. So definitely is not the easiest instrument to get into financially, but then also technically there's a lot to it. I had the fortune to actually borrow one from a friend for a couple years to really start to learn it and start to get the hang of it. So that was a great option because I didn't have to drop $1,000 to see if I liked it and to see if I wanted to play it. Guitar to pedal steel guide. Yeah, I would definitely say start out with like a lap steel because they're cheap. You can buy them for a few $100, and I think that'll give you at least an initial taste. All right, last call for questions, guys. I think we're going to wrap it up here in a minute. But y'all, thank you for checking in, stopping in for a little while, especially if you made it this far. Again, kind of celebrating 10,000 subscribers, almost 2 years here on YouTube doing this. And a big thank you to all you guys who, subscribed, commented, who've bought stuff from the website. All of that really helps the channel, helps me keep doing it. And without all that stuff, I wouldn't still be doing it. And I'm really glad that I am, because I've really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed kind of, building this and learning about making videos and putting videos out. All that stuff has been a blast, and it's been fun. If there aren't any more questions, and I'm probably going to wrap it up here. Just a reminder, everything on the website is on sale till the end of the year. Course is on sale, IRs are on sale, all that stuff. Yeah. Look for new videos in the beginning of the year. I think this is going to be it for this year, as far as videos go. Again, if you don't follow me on Instagram, head over there. It's at Michael W. Westbrook on Instagram. I typically am posting stuff in stories and then photos and whatnot on there too. So that's another way you can keep up with me and see what I'm doing. Probably a little more frequent on there than I am YouTube. So just a good way to connect. What's your opinion on Les Pauls? Do you have any? Do you recommend them? Enjoy any of them? Oh yeah, I've got a 57 reissue Les Paul that is in a lot of my videos, a lot of the demos, um, that I love. Oh, sorry guys, I just popped you. Something just fell in my house. Yep, I got this. This is kind of my baby. I played this for years and years. Tons of bar gigs. It's been all over the U.S. It's been over to Europe a few times. This is definitely one of my go-tos right here. Custom shop 57 Les Paul, stock pickups, the burst buckers. They sound really good. They're not quite as chimey as some like PFA style pickups that I've played. But it's like I don't want to get rid of these to get something else because these do sound awesome. So maybe I'll just have to buy another Les Paul at some point. All right. Again, thank you guys for chiming in or for checking in, watching, all that. Yeah, thanks for the questions. Thanks for all of the encouragement on the channel. Yeah, I didn't know what live streaming was going to be like. This is my first real time doing it like this. But thank you guys for sticking around and watching. All right. See you later.